All right. So my objective here is to take very simple, very simple concepts or very simple questions in this meeting, and we'll talk a little bit about the last meeting. Very simple questions that I'm posing to you that are so simple that most people will overlook them. But in fact, they're critical. Like these are critical questions that I'm going to go deep into. That if you upfront take the time to ask yourself these questions and continue to ask them. These are not one-time questions. You ask them now and you'll get a different answer as to if you ask yourself the same question a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now. These are ongoing questions. And in our first meeting, the question was, why do you want to start a business? And that's an incredibly important question to ask, because I would suggest that it's evident not very many people ask themselves that question. And it's evident in their business. It's evident in their either the success or failure of their business, how detailed they've answered that question, like how strong is their answer to that question. Because the strength of your why will determine if you succeed or not how much you know about business. How much you know about business is important, but that's not the determining factor as to whether you succeed or not. It's your why. And we talked about why, the reason why your why is so important. It's because the challenges of business are going to try to stop you. I was just watching last night this Netflix show about these two Canadian ladies, these two women that have taken an old motel and converted it into like this hip, nice, modern contemporary motel that went from making $40 a night to $500 a night per room. And as you watch this show, you can see it was amazing to me because these two ladies seem very, I don't know, lack of a better word, ditzy, like my first impression as I don't know, an analyzing, very analytical guy is these two, what do these two ladies know about running a motel? Well, apparently they know a lot more than me. And you can see along their journey all of the challenges of business trying to stop them. You can watch any show of anyone who's trying to do anything, and you'll see evidence of what I'm talking about. So it's true. It's just a non-debatable thing that if you accept up front, you're going to do well. That the challenges of business will try to stop you. And I used the example that the forces of nature are against you in the beginning. If you recall that, the forces of nature are against you in the beginning. And I used the example of when you're, the law of gravity. When you're moving, when you're sitting here, if I'm sitting here, right? And I wanted to stand up and walk over here to get, to go sit in this chair, at all times, the law of gravity is against me. But I'm using almost a counter law, right? I'm using like force. I'm asserting my will to get my body to stand up and move, break the law of nature. And it's the same in business. This is where you are financially, in all ways in your life. You say to yourself, this is where I am. This is where I want to be. The vehicle that's going to get me to where I want to go is my business that I want to start or that I'm in. And any kind of movement in nature, you're going against the law of gravity. You're going against nature. So there's going to be challenges, in other words, and it's going to be against you at first. However, should you persist, you're going to break through many different barriers. And that's when the laws of nature will now work for you. And that's why they say the first million is the hardest to make. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but the first $1 million is the hardest to make because of that. And once you make the first million, it becomes easier after that. So I would dare to say it becomes almost maybe less exciting after that. I don't want to say boring. Making money is never boring, but it may be less exciting. So cherish this venture you're on right now, because you'll never do it again twice. In other words, you'll never experience starting and succeeding in a business for the first time again, if that makes sense. You could start and succeed in many businesses, but never you only do it for the first time once. And that'll be your most pleasurable journey because of all the ups and downs and all of the the victories you have and the things you overcome and how strong you become and how just what it does, who you are as an end result, not just what you get, but who you become is just magical. So that was last week or last month, our last meeting. I asked that simple business, why start a business? But I'm going to ask another simple question right now. And that is, what is a business? Right? What is a business? I would suggest that few people really answer this question or ask themselves this question, what is a business? And that is evident to me as well in the number of businesses that fail. Number one, because I don't know if you guys realize this, but majority of businesses that open fail. This goes from small businesses to large businesses. And I won't say that it's very similar to the number of musicians. It's very similar to the number of musicians or number of recording artists there are in the world, right? Versus the number of ones you hear on the radio. You ever turn on the radio and you hear the same song every hour, right? They have the same 10 artists or the same few different songs. You know, you could count all the different artists they're playing in a 2-hour period on your hands. But that doesn't reflect the number of actual artists that are trying to make it in the world, in the tens of thousands, right? So the number that exists of recording artists, you know, musicians, versus the number that actually make it fame, that reach the dream, right, is very different. And it's the same in business. The number of businesses that start and try to make it is very different than the number of businesses that stay in and actually succeed. And I would suggest a big reason why that is because the people that are running these businesses, they don't quite answer this question in a way that I'm going to suggest to you now. And you know, if you were to ask people, what is a business? Like you ask anyone, not even people interested in a business, just walk up to random people on the street, what is a business? You would get different answers, right? Everybody would say something different. And if you were to ask people that actually do have a business or are starting a business of any size, you would get different answers as well. You know, what is a business? And you know, there'd be a lot of similarities, but for the most part, you get different answers to different degrees of depth. So my objective here is to help you today, right now, correctly define what a business is. And there is no right or wrong answer, by the way. It's whatever you define it as. And the goal is to help you understand how to define it, not what it actually is. Because it's different for everybody. Yes, there is common things in every business. Every single business has to have a sale, right? It has to have money come in, and it has to sell a product or a service of some kind. So yes, there's common things and activities in every business, but in terms of how you define your business, it's going to be different. So I'm not going to tell you what you should say, how you should define it, or what it should be. That's up to you to create. And that's the whole magical part of doing this, is what is Rose's definition of a business? What is Eva's definition of a business? What is Laura's? And hi, Laura, by the way, I'm Chris. What is Laura's definition of a business? How you define that is going to very much affect how far it goes. So what do I mean by define? Well, I want to point out that defining your business or what a business is very different than visualizing the business, right? Dreaming about the business in effect, or what is the ideal scene? What is your vision of your business? That's a very important thing. And we're going to do that. That's something that you need to do is envision what you see the business becoming in its largest state, right? In its final state, so to speak. You should never have a final state, but if you know what I mean, envision it big, envision it, where it's going to be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years when you die, or after you die, 100 years, 200 years. Walt Disney, for example, his definition or his vision of his business, right, went well beyond what his lifespan. And so the vision is different than the definition, but it does start with the vision. You have to envision your business. What is it? What does it look like? And from that, you can then start defining it. And what do I mean by define? Let's look at the word fine, like a fine tip pen, right? You're writing in more detail, more care. Well, look at the word refine, right? To refine something, to make it, to refine it. You guys know what refine means. So to define it means that you're taking this grand vision and you're actually defining it. You're capturing it, because when you envision something, there's a lot. When we use our imagination, there's lots of gaps. It's like this ideal, picturesque Disney type of thing that we do when we imagine something, when we envision something, and we see it how we want to see it, just like how we can see people how we want to see them. Some people say, "Oh, my boy does no wrong," or "My kids can never do any wrong," right? When they're running around, acting bad, because we tend to see things how we want to see them, and that includes people, but it includes businesses too. You tend to see what you want to see, or what you're just basically aware of. You may not know all the different moving parts of a business, and so you can only your imagination is limited to some degree to what data you have. What do you actually know about a business? And so when you're envisioning the business, there's lots of cracks, lots of missing pieces there. When you define a business, that's when you're filling it. You're taking that vision and you're basically now I'm going to actually write this thing out. It's kind of like like you're writing a book, and you start with the chapters. You just write, okay, what's chapter 1? Just give me a title. Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, all the way up to 10. And from that point, you then take the title of chapter 1 and you write, you explain it. I'm trying not to digress here. I tend to use multiple examples. I hope you're staying with me here, but this is the method in which some people write books, and do many things. For example, they start with the main idea, and then they start defining it. So I'm just using this as an example to help you understand the difference between defining and envisioning. Both are essential, but the definition is where you're actually going to start getting into the details of what your business is, or what it's going to be, or what it needs to be, because it's really important that you know every aspect of your business. And we're going to talk more about that. The way you define your business, or a business in general, is going to reveal what you think is important, and therefore what you think is not important. How you define your business is going to reveal what you think is important in the business, and therefore what you think is not important. And I'll give you a story behind this. One of my favorite books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. If you haven't read it, you got to read it. It's going to be a game changer for you if you haven't read it. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Robert Kiyosaki tells the story of his first successful business that he made successful, that he started, where back in the 80s, he invented the Velcro wallet with the chain on it, right? I don't know if you guys, I remember that because I was a skateboarder and I used to, love ride a skateboard, and that was the style, wearing those wallets. And he, based on his definition of business, what his business was, he did very well because the business was making millions of dollars and he was, quote, a success. And in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, he talks about he had a rich dad, right? This rich dad, not his real dad, but his rich dad, who was this very wealthy, educated guy about business. And his rich dad told him, you need to find a lawyer and get a patent on that wallet. You need to protect that. You need to protect that. But that didn't fit into Robert Kiyosaki's definition of his business. In other words, he didn't think it was important to do that. And he said it himself. He didn't think that it was important enough to allocate the money towards that, or even to put the effort toward it. He just didn't think it was important. Well, because he didn't have a patent on it, he didn't own the licensing rights to it. So he noticed that other wallets started appearing in the market that weren't his. And he couldn't do anything about it because he didn't own the rights to that design. And so what happened was these wallets, whoever was producing them at a lower cost than he was. And so therefore they were selling them cheaper than he could put him out of business in a quick time. So his business went like this to this and then to this. He had that rise to success and then drop to failure. All because in the way he defined his business. He didn't think that that part of it was important, and it was evident. So how you define your business will reveal what you think is important and therefore what you think is unimportant. So at this point, I want to ask you guys, I want you to write down your definition of what you think a business is. Now, before you do this, you can talk about what you think a business is in general, or what the business is that you're thinking about doing. Anything about business, define it. How do you define it? You can explain, I think a business is this and this and this, or you can just write keywords. A business is bookkeeping, it's sales, it's whatever you think it is. And we'll spend a couple minutes just define what you think a business is, right? Whatever you think, whatever comes to your mind, and go for it. Okay, we'll take one more minute. Okay, welcome back. Now, there's no right or wrong definition. So, if you were able to write and write and you could have kept going for another hour, good for you. If you stopped after a few minutes, good for you. You just did something a lot of people that want to or have or in the process of starting business probably haven't done. But it's important to understand that this is an ongoing process. You're going to always be redefining this throughout your entire life in business. I do it regularly. I'm always doing it. Just it's part of my thinking. It's part of my whole process. And that's what my goal is for here with these business mindset. By the way, I'm going to digress a little bit. Business mindset. My objective here is to instill into you not how to do business, like how to file for an LLC. That's all boring. You can Google search that, right? There's so much, and you'll learn this as we go, but there's so much that you can pay to have done, right? How to write a business plan, or how to start an LLC, how to do all these different technical things. But you could pay for that kind of stuff and find it on the internet. But your mindset is very different. The mindset is really where the money is, or it's where the money is made. So it's going to be an ongoing thing. And I want you to know that, and write this down, please. This is one of those, what do we call it? Writer downers. How I define my business. How I define my business will determine the sustainability. Well, let's say this. Will determine its sustainability and scalability. How I define my business will determine its sustainability and scalability. So let me ask you, and you can type in the text. I just opened this, by the way, Laura. Sorry. Yes, extension of yourself. That's perfect. But I see it now. You can enter it in the chat, or you can unmute. What do you think I mean by sustainability? What is a sustainable business? How would you describe that? Take a guess. There's whatever you think. What does it mean when a business is sustainable? Rose, what does it mean when a business is sustainable? What do you think I mean by that?
I mean, excuse me, I think you mean that, will it be able to last? Will it be able to move forward, to go on?
Right. Exactly. Is it sustainable? Or will it die? Or could it die? Mm-hmm. So to give you an example, let's say that I wanted to start a business selling tamales, right? Okay. Let's say that Derica, my wife, let's say that she made the best tamales in the world, right? They're just the best. She had some ancient recipe from her great-great-grandmother somewhere, and she just made the best tamales. And I said, I want to make some extra money because times are hard. And Derica makes good tamales. Okay, I'm going to go to Home Depot parking lot and sell tamales out of my car. And so My definition of that business is, okay, Derica goes to the store, she buys ingredients, she buys groceries, she goes home and makes the tamales, she wraps them up. I then take them and go to Home Depot parking lot and walk up to people and offer them 10 tamales for $20, which sounds like I don't think that'd be a good deal. They're actually really expensive now. And I collect the money, I go home and I spend it on rent or bills or food or whatever I want, shoes. That's my definition of that business, right? And believe it or not, that is basically the standard definition. If you look at today's age, right? Today's age. Can today have an age? If you look today, there's a lot more people getting an entrepreneurial spirit. It's all over the internet, right? It's all over social media. Start an Amazon business or start trading stocks or get into crypto, all these different things that you didn't see before. So it's kind of, whether you click the ads or not, there's all this new just, I don't know, this whole new idea that's getting instilled into the common person, common people, everyone, getting instilled into our heads about wanting to start a business. And so what the average, or say the common definition of this is I'm going to start selling something. And you can see this with Etsy, right? Or Craigslist, people that are selling things that they're used things. We start by selling our old phones, right? Or we start by going through our garage and getting things that we could sell, like a garage sale. I think of it as the flea market definition or the garage sale definition. The very standard, I sell you this product or I sell you this service and you give me money, which is good. That is basically a business, right? Or you see this with lots of people that work in a company. Maybe they work in an HVAC company, a technician who works for Bell's Brothers or something and goes and installs heating and air units in houses, and on the side he markets his services on the side to do it for people on Craigslist. He'll put a little ad on Craigslist. These under the table businesses, right? This is pretty much the standard definition. This is pretty much the standard definition, which is what I'm using as an example with my tamale business, right? My tamale business is like the garage sale, the flea market type of business. And if it will last, right? And the thing about that is that these businesses are not sustainable. So what do I mean by that? Because you could say, well, wait a minute. I have a friend and I have a cousin, his wife makes cakes. She makes birthday cakes and wedding cakes and all these things out of her home. She's been doing it, I don't know, 10 years maybe. But it's not sustainable. So what do I mean by sustainable? When you think of sustainable, a business should be sustainable in the sense where it can theoretically go on forever. It can go on forever with or without you. Now, my little tamale example, that's not sustainable, because what would happen to the business if I got sick or I got injured or something happened to me or I quit? What would happen to that business? It would stop the very same moment I get sick, injured, or quit. What would happen if Derica got sick or injured or she quit? She said, screw this, I'm tired of making tamales all day. These people don't appreciate my tamales. The business would stop right then and there. It would end. So it's not sustainable. So how you define your business is really going to, for a large part, determine whether it's sustainable or not. Because when you have a simple garage sale flea market definition of a business, then it's going to stay that way. If you were to ask Elon Musk what his definition of a business is, he could probably sit you down for a week and break it all down, in fine detail. And his knowledge of it is just probably vast. But anyone Jeff Bezos, anyone who's created a truly sustainable business, whether it's small or big, you know, their definition is very different than this flea market tamale garage sale definition that we all kind of start off with. Now, when I say, you know, this flea market definition of I give you this product or this service, you know, I sell you tamales or I install your HVAC unit and you give me money, that is at its most basic idea, or at its most basic foundation, that is a business. And it's perfectly good when you're explaining an idea or a business to be simple. You don't, you know, to be simple and break it down in that way. But when you're defining your business, when you're actually capturing it on paper or in well, let's just say on paper, as we're going to see as we go along, and when you're actually recording your definition, it must be more than that. You have to go into further clarity, and we'll go into more of that. But the next thing we talked about that I mentioned is when I said how you define your business will determine its sustainability. It'll also determine your scalability. So what do you think I mean by scalability? So you could type it in here, or you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, I'm just going to call you. And Ray, how's it going, by the way? What do I mean when I say scalability of a business?
Hey, what's going on, Chris? Hey, I think scalability is how big you can grow it, or how could you see, basically how could you see it get big? What's the vision about it? I'm thinking, I don't know.
Right. That's right. So in a simple way of putting it, scalability has to do with how big it can grow. And, you know, when I say scale, what does that sound? When I say scalability, it's literally scaling. How can it scale? And what that means is different in whatever business you're in. You know, what are you scaling? Are you scaling the revenue? Are you scaling the number of clients, the number of leads? You know, different parts of the business can be scaled, but the entire business needs to be scalable. If we go back to my tamale business, if we look at that business and ask ourselves, is it scalable? I don't think so. Not in its current state. We have already determined it's not sustainable, right? It can't go on. Can't go on without me or Derica. She has to make the tamales. I have to sell them, right? But if we wanted to scale it, let's say we wanted to grow it bigger. We wanted to make more money and sell more by selling more tamales. How would we do that? Well, maybe we could, maybe she could make twice as much tamales, right? Buy more ingredients, make twice as much, work twice as long. And I could bring in one of my kids to go to a different Home Depot parking lot and sell the tamales there, right? Maybe I could do that. So now we're making more money. We scaled a little bit. And maybe I can have her make 3 times as much tamales, and I get another kid of mine to go to a different Home Depot parking lot and sell there. So now we've tripled our efforts. We've got 3 locations we sell at now. However, the whole idea behind scalability is theoretically it can scale to infinity. Theoretically, of course. Just like how sustainability is the business can theoretically last forever, scalability is that theoretically the business can grow into infinitum. So with this example in my tamale business, we've scaled, but can we scale forever? In that way, I would say no. There's only 24 hours in a day. Derek can only make so many tamales in a day. I only have so many kids. So the next step would be I would have to start hiring employees. Am I going to hire them illegally, or am I going to hire them legally? If I'm going to hire them illegally, the business is not sustainable. And it's basically a ticking time bomb. Yeah, I could go on I could sell tamales, hiring my cousins and hiring strangers and doing whatever, maybe hiring more people to make the tamales, right? And do this all under the table. but it's not sustainable, and you should never try to scale a business that's not sustainable. So I hope I'm trying not to get too complicated, keep it simple. The idea is sustainability and scalability. Is that these are two things that you should always be thinking about. They should just be part of every decision you make from now on about your business. Is this sustainable? How do I scale this? Can it be scaled? If not, what can I do to make it scalable? So if I wanted to make my tamale business scalable, number one, I would first make it sustainable as best I could. I would do it all legit. I would get a business license. I would start maybe an LLC or maybe a partnership. If it's me and Derica, I would start some kind of limited partnership maybe. And do everything correctly by the book, and start studying, the tamale market, and look at, are there shops? First I'd start, of course, with the vision. What's the vision, as we talked about earlier in this meeting? What's the vision of this tamale shop? Derica's Tamales, right? Are we going to be one location? Do we want 5 locations? Do we want to be just in our city? Do we want to be in our statewide? Do we want to be just on the West Coast? Do we want to be nationwide? Do we want to be worldwide? We start with that vision, and then we start defining the vision, as we talked about earlier, defining it, breaking it down, so we can actually start seeing the moving pieces, filling in the cracks of the vision, as to what will this business be? What will it look like? What needs to be done? All with sustainability and scalability in mind. Because, by the way, if you are not operating legit, for example, if I'm selling tamales out of the trunk of my car, the IRS doesn't recognize that as a business. Neither does the state. It's an illegal business, right? So because they don't recognize that revenue I'm bringing in, I can't claim it on my taxes. And if I can't claim it on my taxes, I can't show a lender what my business is doing. Hey, my business is going great. We're selling 200 tamales a day. We're doing great. Oh, well, I can't give you a loan to open your tamale shop because you're not legally making that money. So that's a little bit of a technical thing, but I just wanted to give you an example of how, about scalability. In my tamale example, I can't get investment. If I wanted to actually really make the business sustainable and scalable, I couldn't get investment until I went legit. I couldn't get a loan from a bank and so forth. And that's, by the way, where a lot of people stay, because they don't know how to define the business further than that whole flea market, garage sale, tamale parking lot, tamale sales definition of a business. They can't go any further, or they won't go any further, define it further than that. They stay there. For example, I mentioned a family member who sells cakes out of her home. I had a conversation with her, I don't know how many years ago, many years ago, about this. I didn't have the experience I have now in business, but I was at that time studying it, learning about it, which we're going to talk about soon. I was interested in it. I was starting a business at that time. But when I talked to her, she had the definition of a business. What I'm telling you, her definition is, well, you sell cakes out of your house. How else would I do it? That was the depth of her I'm not judging her, by the way. There's that was her definition. People call me, friends and family or referrals. They call me, I make their cakes. They describe it to me. Her daughters were helping her, and then they sell the cakes, and that's it. And I asked her, why don't you open a shop? Why don't you, actually go legit? And she couldn't see that far. She had, what she could see, what she could define was terrifying to her. Too many what ifs, too many, no, I got to get a permit and so forth. So she wouldn't go any further than that, is what I'm saying. And then she stopped altogether because she got scared. She read on the internet somewhere that they're starting to crack down on selling food out of homes. And so she stopped. And I basically said to her, Why did you let something like that take food out of your kids' mouths? And that sounds rough, but it's true. You let something steal your dream. You don't even know if that's true. But I'm digressing here. And by the way, I'm not judging her. This is real hard. This is what I told her. What my point is, why I bring this up, is how you define it. And the majority of us stop at that garage sale definition. And I'm going to tell you how to go further than that, because that's where the success has to be. You talk to anyone who's succeeding in business in both sustainability and scalability, has a very good definition of business. So how do you define a business? Let's get into the technical stuff. And by the way, Ray and Laura, if you have questions at any time, just unmute and ask. Just interrupt me. Don't worry about it. But at the end of this, after I'm done with my little spiel, we'll go to more in Q&A, where you can ask me questions about what we're talking about, or any question at all about any business related thing, whether it's a technical question or a mindset question.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm driving towards the Bay Area. I know at some point when I go in the tunnels, it might cut off. But if I get cut off, I'm gonna rewatch the video. Just letting you know.
Cool. No worries.
If I disappear, yeah.
Yeah. No worries. So how should you define a business? Start with studying business as a whole, just in general. Make the topic of business a topic of study for you. Not just the business you're looking into, but business, the whole idea about it. Study business as a whole in general. Many people, I want to say mom and pop places, what they do is they study their product rather than business. Maybe they have a coffee shop or something, and maybe they just love coffee. Maybe they're coffee experts. They love they're fascinated with coffee, and that's perfect. That's great. That's a very essential part to having a coffee shop. Somebody's got to love coffee. Someone's got to be obsessed with the whole thing of coffee, right? Somebody does. But you're not going to do well in your coffee shop if you don't also have some kind of understanding of business, because a coffee shop is a business at its core. And I'll give you a book to read that's going to really explain what I'm talking about. It's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. The E-Myth. E-Myth. The E standing for entrepreneur myth. And he talks about how people, maybe this coffee shop person, maybe they worked at Starbucks and they said, I can make better coffee than this, I can make better coffee than this. I'm going to start my own coffee shop. It's been my dream. I'm tired of working at Starbucks for the last 10 years. I'm going to open my own coffee shop. And based on that alone, I want to be my own boss. I don't want other people telling me what to do. I want to work on my own schedule. I want to create my own thing. That's great. That's perfect. That's good. But it can't end there. In other words, they go and start a coffee shop with just the product in mind. I'm going to make the best coffee in the world. And because they make the best coffee in the world, they start getting all these customers. But because they haven't really they haven't really defined what a business is, what their business is, they haven't studied it, they don't have the broad overview perspective of it, they don't know how to handle that much traffic. They can't keep up with the sales. They can't keep up with the bookkeeping. Maybe they're not paying their taxes correctly. Maybe they don't know how to do or ordering and inventory to that scale. The coffee's so good. The coffee's better than the business. How about that? The coffee is better than the business. Can't keep up with how good the coffee is. And again, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talks about this too. He describes how businesses, when they don't appreciate what I'm explaining here, they can get overwhelmed really quickly and go out of business. You think, oh yeah, we're getting all these sales, things are great. That doesn't necessarily mean a good thing for a business, for a person that can't handle that level of growth that fast because they didn't account for other aspects of their business. The product is just one part of a machine. A business is a machine. The product is just one part of it. There's so many other moving pieces. So you want to study business in general. What do you study? I'll give you some things. I'll rattle off some things. But really, this is the best part of starting a business, honestly, is the beginning, because it's the most adventurous. There's so much you don't know, and it's scary. But why do we ride roller coasters? Because they're scary. And if you can look at business the same way, you'll come out of it with a different attitude. Look at it as an adventure rather than this thing that that no one should ever do because you're going to fail. You'll have a different outcome. And so I'm going to give you some things, some topics of study in business, but really this should be a thing of discovery for you. So again, there's no right or wrong way to define your business. But the more you can define it, the better. So studying business as a whole, in general, you're going to want to study marketing. Marketing is what brings people to your shop, brings people to your door. How do they know about you? Marketing, referrals. Referrals is when, your friend, one customer tells another customer or one of their friends, and they're like, oh, I want to try that coffee. I want to try those tamales. So you'll want to learn about that. Every business has some kind of marketing or referrals. Restaurants, for example, maybe they don't need to market, right? But they do rely on referrals. If you go to a restaurant and it's terrible, you're going to tell your friends, don't go there. It's terrible. Other products, other businesses actually need to market. They need to have commercials on television or commercials on radio, or they need to have ads on Facebook. So the marketing and referrals, how you drive people to your business, is a part of every business. So sales is another thing to study. A sale is when a sale is made. Someone hands you money for what you're offering in your marketing. You're marketing to people, I'm selling tamales. A sale happens when they give you money. So what is the process of sales? That you've heard of salespeople. So if you have marketing, let's say you have an ad, and if I'm going too fast, I know I apologize, slow me down. But let's say you have an ad out on Facebook. Hey, come eat Derek and Chris's tamales. And people come to our store, or they call us. Well, then this is not the best example because the restaurant is different. Let's say that I'm selling Chris's business coaching. Right. Okay. Good. Better example. Let's say I'm selling Chris's business coaching. I put ads out on Facebook, YouTube. Hey, you want to start a business? Let me tell you everything you know about succeeding and growing a sustainable, scalable business, right? So that piques someone's interest. They saw the ad from my marketing. They then, come to this website or call 1-800 blah, blah, blah. They call. Well, what happens when they call? Who answers that phone? What does that person say to make the sale? Because the person hasn't committed to buying yet. They just are interested. So maybe there needs to be a salesperson on the phone. Yeah, how can I help you? You have questions about the program, blah, blah, blah. So that's like the sales process. You'll want to study sales. And sales happen different in every business, like I said. And then there's fulfillment, product fulfillment. You'll want to study product fulfillment. How do you deliver your product? How do you fulfill it? Someone buys my coaching, so they see the ad, they call the number, the salesperson answers, the salesperson, helps them understand if this program is right for them. The customer then decides, this is right for me. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Good. They make the sale. How do we deliver the product? How do we give that person the coaching? This is, maybe it gets delivered on a website. Maybe there's modules. Maybe it's delivered through Zoom classes like this. Maybe it's delivered in person. Product fulfillment. These are all, you want to study this to understand all the different ways a product can be fulfilled. So that when in your business, how do you fulfill your product? You know, what is your product? How do you, that's a different topic, but how do you fulfill your product? So product fulfillment is another area. And then product development, right? What is the product? How do we make the product better? How do, you know, how do we produce the product? Do we need to buy supplies? Do we need to do we need to manufacture things? Do we need to assemble things? How do we develop the product? What is a product? What kind of products can we make? You know, this is an exciting part, by the way. You know, there's so many different products that you could create. Think about this. Think about a best of album of, I don't know, Jefferson Airplane, or I don't know, Leonard Skinner. Think of the greatest hits album of any artist, your favorite artist. What is that? That's a repackaging of an existing product. They're taking pre-existing songs that were released on a totally different album and creating a brand new product out of it. Hey, you've got all these songs on your other albums. You've heard them all before. Let me put it on this new product and sell it to you. So it's like there's so many different ways you could take a single concept, a single idea, and make multiple products out of it. You know, productize the hell out of it. That's a little bit more technical. I'm just giving you the broad concept to get your mind thinking, to get you, you know, kind of get the gears going, make you aware. Another area of business that you'll need to study, maybe not want to study, but need to study, is taxes. This is the part everyone avoids. And I'll just give you a quick little thing about it. Taxes is one of my favorite parts. You know why? Because the IRS is a silent business partner for you. You don't realize it now, but you're going to pay a ridiculous amount of taxes. I pay taxes in the tens of thousands of dollars. You're going to pay ridiculous amounts of taxes. You know what that means? That means the IRS and the state are your silent business partners, but they don't contribute anything into your business. They just come and take your money, right? Hey, send me this money and I won't shut you down. It's like extortion to some degree, I guess. Don't tell anyone I said that. But it's very true. And the more you can study taxes and learn to love them, the more you can reduce your taxes legally. I've paid lots of money to learn how to reduce taxes legally, not illegally. There's ways to do it legally to where you pay very little taxes or pay less taxes, depending on how in depth you want to go. So you know, when Donald Trump, this whole thing about Donald Trump not paying any taxes. I don't watch TV much, but when I see that, or the last time I saw, you know, people complaining about that, okay, I remember now. I was at one of our care homes, and, you know, seniors like to watch the news. These are senior homes, right? They're watching the news, and I was sitting there, and it came on about Donald Trump not paying any taxes, and people were very upset about this. And what that revealed to me is people didn't understand the tax system. They didn't understand that the IRS created the tax system as an incentive for entrepreneurs to create businesses, because the government creates crappy businesses. So they leave it up to people like us who are good at it, who have the spirit. And they incentivize, I'm digressing here, but I'm just giving you kind of, you know, an idea of why you should look at taxes. The IRS, if you look at the tax code, it's actually this book, this instructional manual on how to reduce your taxes. It, you know, there's so many incentives for you to start a business and invest money, right? There's incentives for you to open rental property, to buy properties and rent them out to people, because you're providing housing. The government wants that. When you start a business, you're providing products and services. The government wants that. So they've created ways to incentivize you to do this by reducing your taxes. And so most people don't know about that. So that's where they pay a lot of taxes. When they look at Donald Trump, who obviously knows how to pay no taxes. Robert Kiyosaki, I've mentioned him so many times, I'll say the same thing. He'll talk to you about this all day. Just watch any video about his on taxes, and he'll tell you he doesn't pay taxes. This is different than avoiding taxes. That's different. Tax evasion. He pays no taxes is not true. He pays taxes, but it becomes a wash because of oh geez, I don't want to get too I don't want to get too technical. But in other words, at the end of the day, he doesn't lose money over taxes, right? And so this is one of the areas where you want to really put a focus into is taxes, because as a small business, self-employed entrepreneur, you're going to pay more taxes than you would if you were an employee of your own company. I hope maybe I just lost you there. Let me say that again. You'll pay more taxes than people working for you, because depending on how the way you structure your business, maybe I'll do a class on this. The way you structure your business is going to determine how much taxes you pay. That's debatable as far as Trump is concerned. I'm not defending Trump, by the way. I'm not into politics.
Yeah. Well, his situation is totally different than the typical business. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So
Well, potentially, yeah. I don't know.
but I do understand the business, the deductions and that kind of thing, because I've done it myself, but you have to do it legally. That's the issue.
Right.
There are guidelines. You do have to pay some, right?
Right. Well, no, yeah.
Yeah, you got to stay within, the law.
Right. Which I don't know if he's doing or not, but I'm merely suggesting that I would say, well, honestly, you and I don't really know. I don't know the guy. I haven't looked at his taxes. It's all really just assumption. And based on who we want to believe in the news, that's going to be the side we go towards. I'm not for or against Trump. I know lots of people hate Donald Trump. I don't really care, to be honest. If I don't care enough to hate him or like him. But the point being is that, yeah, tax is a very important part, because as a business owner, you're paying more taxes than you are as an employee. And that why that is, maybe we'll get into that at a different time. The whole thing is just understand and make the whole concept of taxes an important thing for you. And that way you'll because one last thing I'll say, it could be the determining factor as to whether you succeed in business or not. Let's say in your first or second year, if you do taxes correctly, maybe that's going to be the difference between you making it another year. You do it incorrectly, you struggle, you shut down, or you need to take out big loans to keep going, to make payroll, whatever it is. Another topic you should definitely study that contributes into this whole tax thing is business entities, legal entities. What is an LLC? What is a limited liability company? What is an S Corp? What is a C Corp? What is a partnership, a general partnership, a limited partnership? There's this is going to really, your knowledge of this is going to really help two things. Number one, it's to protect you. It's basically to protect you from lawsuits, and to protect your assets, your business assets. Business assets meaning the valuable things your business owns. That could be equipment, that could be copyrighted material, it could be cash, whatever it is. The way you structured your business entity is going to play a large part on how protected that stuff is. So the two main things, like I said, that you want to consider for your business entity is, number one, protection, legal protection against lawsuits and asset protection. Number two, taxes. I already talked about taxes, but legal entities or business entities get taxed in different ways. An LLC gets taxed differently than a corporation does. A sole proprietorship gets taxed differently than an LLC. So that is a topic of study you want to do. Now, by the way, think about what we just talked about so far. Taxes and legal entities. That's boring. Not to me, I love it, but not everyone's going to love it. You might think of that like, that's boring. I want to talk to people. I want to, help people. I want to change their lives. I want to give them this great product. I want to give them this great service. Taxes and legal entities? I know, it's crazy. Not everyone's going to be interested in it. And all I'm suggesting is that you are aware of it. And the more you get interested in it and the more you study it, the better chance you have of sustainability and scalability. That's all I'm saying here. There's plenty of people I've talked to that don't even know what business entity they have. don't really know what I'm talking about, and they have a business, and maybe they've been in business for 10 years. What you know, and I find I don't ask them this unless we're actually talking about it, but you could quickly discover what kind of business entity they have. And if they have a sole proprietorship, for example, after 10 years, they really don't understand business entities. And I'm digressing here. I know I may be confusing you. Forget about it. Just understand you want to understand legal entities to some degree. You don't need to become a lawyer where you know everything about it, but you need to have a general concept, general idea. You're going to want to understand, make a study of topic, leadership and team building, team management. I'm talking about employees. When I say team, I mean your employees, your staff. I mean your financiers, your lenders, your investors, your lawyers, your bookkeepers, your team, the people you build around you. You're going to want to understand that. And how to manage them, like what kind of things do you do? What kind of, well, there's so much in this department, beyond what there's in all of these things I'm talking about. There's so much there beyond what I can explain to you right now. I'm just kind of introducing some of this to you. Some of this you already are aware of, but others maybe you're not. But I am just kind of imposing the importance of them as a topic of study. Human resources. Every business has human resources. Every sustainable and scalable business has human resources. How you hire people, how you fire them, how they get trained. Policies and procedures, all very important things. That policies and procedures, for example, policies are basically the rules you operate. How does your business operate? What are the rules in your business? You write those things. You determine that. How do you want people to dress when they show up to work? Then you got to write a dress code policy. How do you want people to speak when they're talking at work, whether they're to coworkers, to customers? You need to have a policy about that. These are the rules of your business, which is fun because you get to write them, but it gets very tedious. I've written hundreds of policies, handwritten. I created myself. I just like doing that. But also, the more you can create, and this is a little tip here, the more you can actually create in your business rather than replicate, the more you can create, the better. Meaning, if I create the policy versus copy and paste it from an existing policy, I'm going to know that policy intimately. It's part of me. It's part of my thinking process. Versus if someone tells me, oh, here's a dress code policy, drop it into your policy handbook. I never really looked at it. I don't really know it. But when I actually create it or modify it or just put my own input into it somehow, that's different. And now it's part of my thinking. So when someone shows up to work, I don't need to check the dress code policy. I know you're not supposed to wear that. You got to go home and change, or you got to, do this, something different. In other words, it's part of my thinking. It's part of my vision. When I look at things, I can see. Go ahead, Ray.
Hey, Chris, I know my phone's about to go out. Man, this is great stuff. I'm gonna and look up all the tax stuff too. That's good stuff, man.
Yeah.
How could later on when I get back home, how could I rewatch the video?
It'll be in the members page.
Okay.
Yeah.
And on the website.
Yep. Yeah, in the members page under the business mastery module section. I'm not sure what it's called, but
okay.
yeah, it should be there hopefully today or tomorrow.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks. I appreciate it, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming.
See you there. No problem. Thank you. Goodbye.
All right. So policies, procedures, and systems. Systems is probably the biggest thing that businesses fail on for not having good systems. And by systems, geez, I could go into depth, but I'm not going to. This is my favorite part, systems. That's what I'm good at. That's one of my skills or my talents, is creating systems. So if a business is a machine where it has all these moving parts, think of that as a system, right? The system of moving money or moving products or data or information throughout the business. These are systems at work. And you want to understand the systems that are at work inside of your business. It can't be a mystery to you. The more you understand the systems in your business, the better chance you have of sustainability and growth. So this one topic alone is a lot to dig into. By systems, I'm talking about procedures, standard operating SOPs, as they're called, standing operating procedures. For example, someone makes a sales call. They call a lead. Let's say you are calling a lead. A lead is someone that's interested in buying your product but hasn't bought yet, and you are going to make a sales call. Well, what's the procedure for that sales call? You're going to call them and offer them the program. What is the procedure? And by procedure, I mean, what do you do first? Step 1. What do you do? Step 2, step 3, step 4. What if they buy? What if they don't buy? What are the procedures if they don't buy? What are the procedures if they do buy? You can see how in-depth and analytical and this goes. It could drive you nuts, but it's important. When they buy, what's the procedure for collecting their payment? What is the procedure for delivering the email? If you're going to send them an email, how do they get that email? All these different things, what is the system? What are all the different systems for all the different parts of your business, right? Not everyone's going to love that like I do, but it is important, and you want to be aware. You want to be aware, at least, understand the general contribution that every part of your business, every moving part, every system in your business, you don't need to master it. You don't need to be a specialist in tax law, but you do need to understand the critical pieces. What does this contribute to the overall machine, the overall picture? What would happen if this piece breaks down? How do we fix it if this piece breaks down? You as the owner, this is your business. This is your creation. This is your dream. You are the one responsible for having this bird's eye view, this overall omni view of your entire operation. You don't necessarily have to be a specialist in Facebook advertising, in sales calling, in tax law, in bookkeeping. You don't need to be a specialist. You can hire these people, but you do need to understand how they work. For example, I did my own bookkeeping for the first 2 years of my business. And now and after that, when I felt like, okay, I've outgrown this, this is now a burden for me to do this activity, so now killing my time, I hired a bookkeeper. When that bookkeeper makes mistakes, I know. I can look at it, this doesn't look right. And it happens. I did it the other day. I caught an error that he did. I said, hey, I noticed that this isn't right. Can you please fix it? If I didn't do bookkeeping in my business for 2 years, or if I didn't understand bookkeeping to some degree, at least what's important in it, I couldn't have done that. And that error may cost me money. Maybe that would have cost me to pay more taxes than I should have. Maybe it's showing that I have made less revenue than I did. And if I want to get a business loan, I qualify for less money now. Oh, wow. In Canada, the corporation is the same as an LLC. That's a trip. That's interesting. I'm going to look into that. So another part of business that you'll want to understand is equipment. And what kind of equipment will you need? In a coffee shop, what do you need? All kinds of equipment. You need coffee makers, you need chairs, you need tables, you need a cash register, you need so many different things. And you want to understand what are the equipment needs of your business and how to manage that equipment. What are the policies around that equipment? Is it okay for people to just be rough with it? Can people set drinks on top of your cash register? Can they use your computer for personal use? Can they go on to Facebook? Can they buy things on Amazon from your company computer? These are all just things to think about. Equipment purchase needs, equipment purchasing, equipment maintenance. What if your coffee machine breaks down? How do you get it fixed? Right? What's your backup plan if your main coffee machine breaks down? Do you have to close the store for a while? Do you have some other solution? These are all just things to think about. And This is a lot, I know. I don't know if you're feeling like, oh my God, I don't want to start a business now. I don't want to do this. This is too much. Good. I hope I'm deterring you. Maybe I'll save you from years of headache if you're not really determined to do this. But the better I could paint this realistic picture for you, the more I could paint the realistic picture, the better. Because if you still go forward with it, it's like, man, you're going to be tough. You're going to make it through. So equipment, technology, right? Are you using software? Are you getting software designed, you know, or created? You know, do you need to hire someone to code software for you? Who's going to own the code? Like how are you going to change? How are you going to get your website made? Are you going to make the website? Or are you going to hire someone to make the website? What about technical support for your customers? Who are they going to talk to when they have some issue with or question about your product or something, or with your website? All these different things to think about, you know, as part of your overview of business to understand everything. And lastly, another one of my favorite parts is money management. Gosh, this is probably one of the most important parts. Financial statements, money management, bookkeeping. If you read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he does a really great job at giving you like the introduction to this, how to read financial statements, a profit and loss sheet, a balance sheet. And he has a game that he invented called Cash Flow. The game is called Cash Flow. And it's a board game where it basically teaches you how to invest. It's a great game. I've been playing it for years. There's actually groups you can join. There's a real estate group in Sacramento. They get together every week and play that game. But in this game, it helps you understand how to read and use financial statements, which are probably the most important statement or document in a business is your financial statements, meaning your profit and loss, your balance sheet, and your cash flow statement. Those three things right there. If you were to start a business or have a business, and I asked you, how's your business doing? You said, oh, it's great. You know, we're doing, you know, better than ever. It's going so well. The dream is coming true. I'd be like, great. You know, I'm happy for you. And I said, well, let me see your financial statements. And I looked over your profit and loss. I would be able to see the actual reality of it. I would say, gosh, you know, how do I tell her she's actually about to drown soon? If she doesn't change this soon, she's going to go out of business. How do I tell her that? In other words, that's what kind of story these financial statements tell about your business. When I was looking to buy, I was looking to buy a business. It was a million. It was, I don't know, $2 or $3 million business. I was looking to buy it. I sat down with the owner, and the first thing I did was go over his financial statements, which luckily he was open to give me. He actually gave me his financial statements for the last 3 years. This doesn't happen very often. This is rare to do. But I was able to do it, and we sat down for 2 hours, and I literally picked apart his financial statements and realized your business is failing. I'm not going to buy this. And we are actually friends now. We became friends. We you know, and anyways, that doesn't matter. But I told him that I pointed out all the different parts that I see, and I asked him, why are you spending money on this? He's like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't. Why are you buying all of these things? Why did you do this? And, you know, this, that. I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't think it was important. If I didn't think financial statements were important, number one, and I didn't actually read my own, like study them. And he did sell that business, by the way, to a lady who has no clue of what she's doing. And he asked me to come in and kind of, I don't know, coach her a little bit, consult her, give her some advice. And she didn't take it. It's fine. She has her own vision, her own definition of business, of what it is. And she's struggling. She's already almost gave up, already almost shut down a few times. Didn't pay none of her staff on time. So all of her staff didn't show up to work. I don't know how many people, 10, 15 people didn't show up to work. And that's how important this stuff is. Your financial statements and your money management skills. And I didn't have that in the beginning. I didn't have it. I learned it. I learned it because I luckily enough, I've read enough books in the beginning and learned how important this stuff is. So when I did start my business, it was part of my thinking from the beginning, which is what I'm doing with you right now. I'm getting this part of your thinking. And if you're in the beginning, it's going to now be part of your thinking moving forward. And if you're already in a business, like Ray's already in business, it's now going to be part of his thinking. He's going to look at his existing business and say, gosh, I see where I can make changes now. I see through different eyes. And that's my goal here. So money management should be a topic of study for you, particularly how to read financial statements, which is essentially bookkeeping. So bookkeeping is basically an important thing, but not all bookkeepers know what I'm talking about. My bookkeeper, for example, he knows what he learned in school. He knows what his boss tells him to do, but he doesn't know what's important to look at in the books. Like he doesn't know how to run a business and make it, see where it's at. It's health. A business is health by looking at its financial statements. He doesn't know how to do that. He just knows how to keep the books. So there's a difference. So when I tell you study bookkeeping, I don't mean study it like you're going to become a bookkeeper. I mean study what's important in bookkeeping so you understand it to some degree. You don't need to become a bookkeeper. Okay. Any questions? That was a lot. That was mind-numbing. Code of ethics. Yes. Safety. Those are all policies. Right. Those are all policies that you want to have in place. The code of ethics is how people behave, your staff, everybody. When people because they represent your business, they represent your company. Are they cussing? Are they making personal phone calls? Are they arguing with their boyfriend? You want to have these policies in place, and when you onboard your new employee, you want to onboard them into your policies and basically let them know we enforce the policies, but educate them on them. And safety, you want to make sure that people are doing things safely, because if they're not, they could get hurt, which is a workman's comp claim for you and maybe a potential lawsuit. Your customers get hurt, your staff gets hurt. So safety is an important thing. In my business, it's so important that it's scary. The liability in my particular business is ridiculous. There's a potential for people to get hurt all the time, or things to go wrong, safety things to happen. So study business in general. The next thing that you want to study is your industry. What industry are you in, or what industry do you want to get into? This is where you're further defining. You're getting more specific. We talked earlier about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki's wallet business that he started. In his industry, he needed a patent. He needed to get a patent, right? He needed a patent lawyer. I don't recall what type of lawyers these are, but basically they help create a patent for your product. And in his industry, he needed that. In my industry, I don't need that. Maybe not in yours either. So in your industry, you want to study your particular industry. What are the particular things about your business, coffee shop or tamale business? What is it about your business, right? Because like I said, all businesses have general activities that they all do, but then there's but then there's activities that they only do within their industry. So study your business's industry. If you don't know what that is yet, that's fine. Our next meeting, by the way, is going to be about what business should you do. I'm going to help you understand how to do that, how to choose a business, and all the good information about that. But whatever business or industry you're in, you want to study that, or you're going to enter, you want to study it and understand it. If you ask anybody, ask Elon Musk about the battery industry, right? He's going to know so much about batteries, right? Ask him about the car industry. He knows so much about the car industry. Ask him about the rocket making industry. He knows about that. Anyone who's succeeding in business to a large degree is incredibly knowledgeable about their industry. And in fact, they're probably obsessed with it. They know a lot about it. It's their business to know. It's your business to know your industry. Know who your competitors are. What are the products other people are selling? What makes yours different? What makes your company different? What makes its culture different? So much can be talked about there. But I'm going to leave that up to you to go into that. And your definition, remember, we're still talking about the definition of your business. How do you define your business? That's what we're talking about. That's what this whole last 20 minutes that I've killed is about, is defining your business. You do that by studying the overall general view of what business is and also your industry. But just keep in mind as a rule that your definition of business should be all-encompassing. People whose definition is very marketing forward or very product forward, or let's say product driven or marketing driven or sales driven or whatever it is, meaning they're only focused on that. They've only defined the business to that, in that one place. These other places are going to be suffering and be potential, cracks in the foundation that's going to cause failure. So your definition should be all-encompassing, all-encompassing as it can be, and that is going to be an ongoing process. If I were to ask you to define your business that you're in or want to get in right now, it'd probably be very limited, and that's normal because your knowledge of it is very limited. But as you move forward with just what I've given you so far in this next week or two, or however you move forward, your knowledge is going to grow, which is going to then cause you to redefine what you think a business is. And, you could compare what you thought a business was today to a month from now. There'll be two different things. So understand that your definition should be all-encompassing and it's ongoing. You're going to be doing this for the rest of your life in business. You're always going to be redefining everything about your business, but your business as a whole as well. And here is the fun part. The fun part is that as you do this, you're going to reveal blind spots. You're going to reveal blind spots. What is a blind spot? And you should probably write this down. As I continue to define my business, I'm going to find blind spots. A blind spot is an undefined part of your business. That machine, all these different things happening, it's a blind spot is an undefined part of that machine. You haven't defined it yet. It's kind of like maps, a map. Like if you look at maps of the 1800s, 1600s, 1300s, you have a map that's incomplete. It shows some of the picture, but not all of it because of the world, of the planet, because those parts weren't explored yet. There's parts of your business that you're not going to explore just yet. Like there's always going to be unexplored parts of your business. And the challenge with that is these unexplored or undefined parts of your business, if there's too many of them, they can hit you all at once and be a huge obstacle. And again, Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, he talks about these things. He's given examples in his business. Too much success too fast, for example. Too many orders coming in, can't handle it. Too many blind spots in the business, can't handle it. Leads to lots of unhappy customers, lots of complaints. Basically, no one's buying anything anymore, shut down, go out of business. Or there could be one major blind spot one blind spot that is so critical that it just like this perfect storm happens where that blind spot all of a sudden gets revealed to you and it's too late. You can't fix it. You know, your best attempts ain't going to fix it. So at all times, you want to be exploring your business and continuing to define the undefined parts, the blind spots. I still find blind spots in mine, and I'm always defining them. By define, in this case, I'm talking about control them. They are under your control. You are aware, you've mapped them out, you've created policies, maybe you've created processes and procedures, you've done whatever needs to be done, and you've now mapped that part out. You've now created, you know, you've defined it. So now it's a visible, clear thing in your business that you are now aware of. So as you move along, you're going to constantly be looking for blind spots. That's your goal. Because just as you think everything's going great, all of a sudden this blind spot comes out and hits you out of left field. And these are these challenges I talked about from why do you start a business from our last meeting. One of these blind spots could hit you hard. It could hit you in the gut. It could make you lose sleep. I mean, you're terrified at night. I've been there. I still get there sometimes where you're like scared. You're like, I don't know what to do about this. Maybe you're lucky and you have a business partner and they tell you, this is what we're going to do about this. And you're like, okay, I feel good about that. Or maybe you don't have a business partner. It's all just you in your head. And you're like, I don't know what to do about this. And all of a sudden the what ifs start kicking in. All of the fears start kicking in, losing sleep. You're not eating, things like that. This is the reality. This is the reality. I'm not going to paint a fake picture of what this is about to you. So look for those blind spots. And we are at an hour and a half, and I don't want to keep boring you any longer. So I'm going to just tell you some rules for your homework, for your assignment. Don't call it homework, your assignment. I'm going to offer you an assignment to do. Whether you do it or not, it's up to you. So your assignment is to envision the business you want. Start with the vision. Just envision it. Describe it. And remember, as you do this, there's going to be lots of gaps, lots of holes, not detailed, just very broad. And it should feel good. It should feel good when you write this and describe it. And how far you go into the future is up to you. But ideally, if this is something you want to do for the rest of your life, then envision it beyond your life. Because if you can do that, then you're going to build a business that's sustainable and scalable. Because for that business to go beyond your living years, it's got to be both of those things. So do you envision your kids taking over the business? Their kids taking over the business? Do you envision this becoming something that gets given to the public to where it's like it now belongs to everyone in a sense, where everyone loves your company? That's up to you to envision. So just go wild and envision as best you can, the big picture, as big as you can go. From there, you're going to want to start defining it. And that's where we start taking the vision and filling in the cracks. Because I want to have 5 locations all around California. That's the vision. 5 locations of my coffee shop around California. Well, defining it is where, okay, how do we, not necessarily in any order, not like, no, what's step 1, step 2, that's important too, but we're still just defining. We're still just defining. How would we get people, people are going into the coffee shop. What do they do when they get in there? Is there going to be parking? What do they do when they go in there? What are the options for them? Is there going to be scones? Is there going to be, how are we making the scones? Just different details. You don't have to get into minute detail, but start defining the business. And when you're doing this, I suggest that you handwrite. You write this by hand on white paper and blue ink. And I don't just suggest this, I think this is critical, because when you handwrite this, it's part of you, it becomes part of you. in a different way than if you type it in a computer. If you want to type it in a computer, I suggest you handwrite it first and then type it in a computer, or do a mixture of both. But the more you handwrite it, the more it becomes part of you. The vision becomes just part of your body. I mean, part of your body, your energy, your DNA, everything. So handwrite it. I also use flow charts. I'll take different parts like marketing, like let's say marketing, draw a flow chart. How does money flow? Sales, like when you make a sale, how does the money flow? You know, it starts here, it goes here, then it goes here, then it goes here, and then it ends up here in the bank. You know, start with a flow chart, and then you could take that flow chart and further break those down further. You don't have to do this, flow charts, you don't have to, but they definitely help. Business plan. One of the cool things about what I'm doing with you right now is basically I just taught you how to write a business plan. What do you think a business plan is? It's the definition of your business, because a business plan is basically, the purpose of it is to be this document that explains to someone else what your business is, because it needs to describe how do you market. What do you do here? You don't need to give them a flow chart. You don't need to explain every step, but you do need to basically say, well, we market like this and we do this and we do that. Who's your target market? Who are you selling to? What we do? All these questions. And in order for you to produce a business plan, you got to answer those questions. How do we market? How do we bring in customers? Who are our customers? Who's advising us? Who's our legal team? All these questions, right? I wrote a business plan mostly from scratch because I understand the importance of what I'm explaining to you, is that when you create something, it's different than when you just get drag and drop. So I wrote a business plan, and it is pretty tedious. If you're like a people person and you love just dealing with the customers and the whole thought of sitting down and write a business plan is I don't want to do that. I understand that. I get that. Maybe you could have someone help you do this, but you don't have to do this, by the way. You don't have to do this, but if you're going to get investment into your business, whether it's from a bank or whether it's from investors, they're going to want to see a business plan. I produced the business plan, showed it to my bank or to a bank, and they accepted it and lended money to me. And so they're going to want to see these things. They're not going to just trust you on your word and say, okay, we'll loan you money. You really must. Not really. I really, no one's making coffee like me. We make the best coffee in the world. Trust me. They're going to say, I don't care. I talked to 100 people that say they got the best coffee in the world. What makes you any different? How are you going to make it through your business? These are all serious things. And when I did my business business plan, when I did it, I was buying a business, an existing business. When I applied for when I went after the loan, the business loan, and I submitted this business plan, everything on my side was so strong, right? Because I was aware of what I'm telling you. The seller, on the other hand, didn't have any of these things. She's one of these people I'm telling you to avoid. She had her business for 13 years, seemed sustainable, seemed scalable, wasn't. She was hanging on by a thread for many years, and it burnt her out, back injury, couldn't do it anymore physically. Barely hanging on, could not scale, only had one location for 13 years, which means she can't scale. She had the garage sale mentality. What she had in terms of record, a documentation, all this definition, essentially defining her business, was next to nothing. And near the end of the transaction, the bank said to me they wanted to have a meeting with their whole team, Zoom meeting. Hey, we're not really sure about lending on this business anymore. The seller seems really unprepared. There's too many blind spots, too many gaps in the documentation and the record. And we at this point are not sure if we're going to move forward any further. However, we're going to leave it up to you. If you decide you want to still move forward, then we'll consider it. Basically, my position was so strong that they had faith in me and confidence in me that they left it up to me. If you believe you can make this work, then we trust that. But if I didn't have this, what I'm explaining to you, and I was lost like the seller, they would have probably just said, okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna back out on this entirely. So the more you could define your business, the stronger it's going to be, number one, the stronger it's also going to appear to others, or be to others, not just appear, but be to others. And they'll lend on it, they'll invest in it, they'll believe in it, whether it's you're trying to enroll an employee to work with you or you're trying to enroll an investor to invest with you. Either way, when they see how defined you made your business, they're like, oh my God, I see the picture. I see it. So there are business plan templates. It's called score.org, SCORE.org. This is like this business kind of mentor company where they have these templates where you can actually download this PDF of a business template and it'll guide you through the process of creating a business plan. Don't do this. You don't have to do this now. You don't have to do this now. But understand that if you are ever going to look for investment or even partnership to some degree, maybe, you're going to need to produce a business plan so you can actually give somebody something tangible where they can actually see for themselves, what is this business, rather than just some abstract concept in your head. So use flow charts, write a business plan if you want, use a business plan template from score.org. Do lots of research on everything we talked about, studying the business. Interview other people. I know that sounds formal, but in other words, talk to other people that are like what we're doing now. Talk to experienced people. I have a saying that I like that comes to me. I always think about, never ask a homeless guy how to buy a house or how to keep a house, right? He doesn't know. Don't ask people for advice that don't know what they're talking about. They don't have any experience. So talk to people that are experienced in what you want to do, whether it's business in general or whether it's specific to your industry. I do this. I'll tell you what, I don't even talk to people that aren't in business. It's boring to me. I'm sorry. I get bored talking about anything other than business. That's how obsessed with it. That's how much I love it. Don't talk to me about football. Don't talk to me about the weather. I don't care. I can see the weather. It's raining. I'll get an umbrella. I'll wear a rain jacket. I don't care. We don't need to talk about this all day. The things I like talking about are business and self-improvement, I guess would be the term, or just living better life, improving ourselves. I like those kind of things. I could talk about that all day. So when I talk to people, I have friends that aren't in the same business I'm in, and I have friends that are in the same business I'm in. And I love talking about this stuff with them. We explore things. I ask them for their advice. They ask me for advice and so forth. So do the same thing. Start associating with people that are in business. Always ask, as a rule for moving forward, always ask when you're planning and working on your business, always ask, is this sustainable? That's a question you should always ask. And I still ask this to this day. And it's part of my thinking process now. So I have sometimes a staff member will ask me a question. Hey, can I start getting paid weekly instead of biweekly? Or a resident will ask me, can I do this? Or a customer will ask me, can I do this or that? Almost instantly, I realize this is not sustainable. So no, we're not going to do it. Or I need to think about it a little bit. No, that wouldn't be sustainable. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we can't do that. You don't want to start creating business activities that aren't sustainable, because then they're wasted activities. You're wasting your efforts, your money, your time. So always get in the mindset of asking, is this sustainable? And you'll get better at it as you go, and it'll become part of your thinking process. The next thing is that you should, from this point forward, have it in your mindset to create a business, your business to be scalable. You now understand what I mean by scalable. It means it can be basically grown into infinity. It can just be grown huge across the world forever, right? Sustainable and scalable. But your goal from this point should be scalable. Now, that doesn't mean you have to scale. It just means that you can. Because a business that can scale is a business more likely to succeed. And if you should you reach the point where your business is scalable, you're going to want to scale. Believe me, you're going to do it. Because it's like you're going to feel empowered. There's money on the table. You're like, I've got this working thing here. Why should I leave all this money on the table? Let me scale so I can grab the money, help more people and serve more people. So from this point forward, build your business to scale. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to make it a goal. This is a rule. If you're going to do this is important. Your objective is that you build your business so that it does not need you. That's one of the lucky, fortunate things that I understood conceptually before I started my business, because I learned this. I learned from the beginning, I need to always be building my business so that at some point I can back out of it. It doesn't need me to operate. And if your business can't scale if it needs you, meaning if you're the one in there making the coffee, you're the one in there managing the employees, you can't scale that. You need a manager, you need a barista or bartista, whatever they're called, that make the coffee. You need people in doing that. Yes, you're going to be the one overseeing your whole business. It's your business, but you're not needed in the daily operations of it. It can run and make money for you without you. So you should always be looking to build a scalable business from now on, and you should build it so that at some point in the near future, 2-5 years maybe, it does not need you. If you want to stay in your business, you could do that. That's perfectly fine. If you want to be the one that makes all the sales calls, if you want to make the coffee, that's fine, but you don't need to do it. Last thing I'll say is that the business is depends on you. This is all really down to you. Wherever your business goes, it's not going to go there on its own in the beginning. It needs you. It does need you to do it. It needs you to take it where it's going to go. Once you get it there, once you've defeated nature, so to speak, now nature kicks in and it no longer needs you because you've set it up in the way I'm talking about with the mindset, to where it takes on a life of its own, and now it's just going. And it doesn't need you. But in the beginning, it's like a baby. It needs you. You need to nurture that baby. And then it grows up and like leaves the house and goes off to go backpack through Europe. It doesn't need you anymore. That's the life cycle of a business. I mean, that's the objective. Okay. So any questions? I am trying to figure out Zoom here for a minute. So I ran my mouth for an hour and 50 minutes, and I'm glad you guys stuck through that. There was a lot of information there. I'm sure your brain is a little numb right now. You probably don't remember any of it. And that's good. That's fine. You wrote some of it down, but there'll be a recording so you can watch it again. But I'll stick around. If you want to chat further about anything, you have questions specifically. And by the way, the whole back to what I was talking about talking with other people about business. This is a great place to do that too. One of the ways that you learn is to hear questions that other people are asking. So the questions you ask me, whether it's, let's say it's about your particular business, one of you asked me, everyone's going to learn and gain from that, right? Whether they had that question themselves or not. So it's good to have open discussions about specific things in your business or about business in general. Everyone hears it. Everyone benefits from it. Do you tax write-off? Do I use tax write-offs? Yes. So tax write-offs are more of a like when you're employed. When you're employed, you write things off in taxes. When you're the employer, it's a little bit different. When you're an employer, the objective is to make your personal expenses business expenses. So it's different. It's like it's like a tax write-off, but not technically a tax write-off as the IRS defines it. For example, how can I get my business to pay for my gas in my car? How can I get it to pay for food? How can I get it to pay for my car, period? You know, the car payments. How can I get it to pay for my mortgage or a portion of it? Because if I can get it to be paid by the business as a business expense rather than a personal expense, then I'm using pre-tax money. In other words, you know, this is going to get a little technical, but when I get money from my business, I have to pay taxes on that money. So if this is my business money, right, and I give it to myself, I have to pay taxes on that money, right? But if I leave that, okay, let me start over. If I pay that money to myself and I pay income tax on that and I pay self-employment tax on it, so I get taxed twice. I then pay my car bill with that money. So I'm paying it with post-tax money with my car bill. But if I can get my business to pay the car bill, then it's paying pre-tax. In other words, you know, taxes didn't get taken out of that. The employment tax and the income tax didn't get taken out. So I saved that money by having my business pay for my car bill. So yes, to answer the question, yes, tax write-offs, but it's just structured differently. And yes, you can have a business pay for your entire car bill depending on how you use that car. I'm not able to do that because I don't have a car that's required 100% by my business. But I do write off a percentage of my car bill, the car washes, all of the gas, and whatever maintenance I do on it. I pay for that with pre-tax money, which is business tax, business money. If that makes sense. That's a little technical, but does that answer the question? Or did I miss it? But that's a good question. Taxes, yeah, taxes are, well, how you can find legal ways to pay less taxes is the fun of the game. Why give that money to the IRS? Why give it to them? They didn't do anything to help you for it. You know, they're not building your business. They're telling you, it's like, hey, it's okay to pay us less money by doing this. Why not do it? Just, you know, they're telling you it's okay. They even tell you how to do it. But they put it in a way where only CPAs can understand. Okay, someone's got a question. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay, so what is anyone landing on a business yet or an industry that they want to enter? Don't be shy.
This is Rose. The business model I'm using is network marketing. So I'm going that route for various reasons at this time. But eventually, I would like to have a business that's not network marketing model, more of a traditional sort of business. But there's reasons why I'm doing it this way. But I'm getting the education. I did spend the money to learn about that particular part of the business. Um, so that's the model I'm using right now. But eventually, I do plan on probably being maybe a silent partner with some of my family members, part owner, you know, have some partnerships, that kind of thing. But
And
you know, what you've been teaching is great, great information.
good. I'm glad it's helping. So you're talking about going in, your family members will become partner in this network marketing business? Is that what you're talking about?
No. Right now it's myself. I'm doing the footwork, I'm doing the research, I'm getting the education and knowledge, and I've connected with quite a few people in this particular business model. But there's reasons why I chose it, you know, like you were
Right.
talking about all these things that you're talking about, the person who has the particular business, health and wellness is what I'm really focusing on. And because I was, an RN for 40 plus years, and I still have my license.
Mhm.
So health and wellness is something I know, it's been ingrained in me, and I've been doing this for so many years. And I thought, you know what? So I'm making it a bigger umbrella. I was thinking about that before, got on with you. Because at first I was going to do the network marketing model with a particular product or a few products this particular company has. Um, and then I also talked about the courses that I'm going to be creating.
Mhm.
They go together actually, because there's the health and wellness products, and then there's the courses to help you to, learn to live healthier and that kind of thing. So I
Right.
thought, you know what, I can make this a big, huge umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, I'm
that's
gonna do
great.
this.
Perfect. So that would be the vision, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
And as you further define those down, you're going to break them down into manageable pieces, right? That your brain can understand.
right.
And I would suggest this, that one of the mistakes that I made plenty, and I see other people make it, is they try to make the vision, they're trying to create the whole vision in
Mhm.
the beginning. In
Right.
other words, they see this whole vision, and that's what they're trying to create from on day one.
Mhm.
What I mean is that, I'm gonna create, like when I first started exploring what we're talking about now, thinking about what kind of business do I want to do, I had 3 or 4 different businesses at the same time I was trying to do.
Mhm.
I was trying to create the whole vision right now. And in my experience, that's not the way it's going to work. You're going to go one piece at a time.
Right.
So rather than trying to create the health and wellness and the the other one, both of them, just focus on one. Focus on one first, even though they contribute to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though they contribute to each other, because I can tell you now that one of the areas that our brains neglect as we imagine what the vision, it neglects or it has a blind spot to all of the back end work, the actual footwork, right? So in other words, I can envision, yeah, I'm going to open a coffee shop, and I'm going to have a grand opening, and we're going to have a band there playing, and we're going to have open mic nights and all this. Those are all great ideas that get us excited, but we fail to realize how much is required to do all that, the back end work, as I like to call it. The back end work, just to have a grand opening, for example, could take a lot of time and a lot of money just to do that, right?
Right.
Just to do that. And so that's like a thing, like the safety net you have to catch yourself with, is that, am I taking on too much? Because I don't know the back end work. It's not until you start actually doing this stuff where you realize, okay, I bit off more than I should have. So you'll learn this as you go, of course. You'll learn like where to draw limits with yourself. Like, am I being overly ambitious, or am I not being ambitious enough? But either way, um, I would suggest that even when things contribute to each other in the overall vision, just focus on one thing. Get that sustainable and scalable first. Because that's the model. That's what you look at, all the successful people that have done it. They focused on one business. Now they've got everything, but in the beginning, one thing that they grew.
Right. I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah. I saw it on your face. Yeah.
Trust me, I knew it.
Good.
That's why I thought, that like I said, that was the vision that came to my mind recently, was about the whole health and wellness.
Right.
And then what I am going to focus on is more the course, because I feel like that's something that'd be more sustainable and scalable. Although, the product line, that's great. I could still talk to people about that's, you want to try it, but I'm not going to focus on it as much. I want to get the course done, the first one,
Yeah.
start with the first one, and then eventually increase it, because increase the number of courses that are going to be available, or even change the format. I might decide, oh, maybe I'll do Zoom. So maybe I'll do um, podcast or something,
Right.
something different. But right now, that's kind of where I'm starting.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna put, I was debating about that because putting one on the back burner, which would be the product line, because I feel like the courses would serve me better.
Yeah.
And it's that I can do worldwide easily, through social
Mhm.
media and that kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
already have a platform that I'm working with on that's going to help me, you know, because
Yeah.
they're the ones that already have all this. They have the business put together pretty much, and I'm just going to plug into it and potentially, do great things with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Yep. And on our next meeting, we'll go into detail about, making a bit, choosing a business, how to choose a business, and all of the details around that. How to know, what's the reality behind it. Just more about what we just talked about.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
Part of the reason why I picked this particular model is because there is very little overhead. And so
Right.
overhead, costs so much, much more money. And like you said, all the headaches, and they do that part. They
Right.
be the company.
Mhm.
And I'm plugging into you know, their business. But yet we're going to be partners, so that's major reason why I did it that way, because
Yeah,
otherwise yeah.
that's good thinking. Yeah, that's good strategizing in terms of how to choose a business is, which we'll talk about next meeting too, is, the potential costs of it, startup costs, the overhead, overhead being the expenses, some of the expenses,
Mhm.
because there are overhead expenses and there's operational expenses, two different types, but that's technical. But yeah, that's the right line of thinking you want to have, because yeah, an online business can be scalable and sustainable. It can be automated essentially.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and so social media is a big part of it, and that's what I'm really gonna be focusing on more and learning more about it, because I don't really go on social media that much, but if
Mhm.
that's the way to reach the world, I'm all for it.
Right. Yeah. You don't personally have to love or do in your personal life the things that your business needs. I don't care for
Right,
social media.
right.
But yeah, I mean, you could sell products, for example, you don't even like or use. I mean,
Well, I
just
wouldn't
totally
do that
simple.
though. See,
You
because I
wouldn't
want
do
to
that, right?
be authentic, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. No, I
I
got it.
wanna, yeah, the social media has a bad rap, I think, in a lot of cases, because it should for some things. But then it is a platform though that people have used and they are doing fantastic,
Mhm.
because you do reach the world. And so that some of the programs I've been doing, we did Zoom breakouts, and I've met people from all over the world. And there's so many people from all over the world that they are being entrepreneurs, they're
Right.
they're looking above and beyond, you know, working a
Right.
job. Yeah. So, but anyway,
Yeah, so that's great. We'll dive more into that next week for sure. I'm sure you'll get a lot out next week, next month. You'll get a lot out of what we talk about choosing a business. Laura's talking about teaching.
mm,
So are we talking about a teaching business or a teaching career? Because there that is a distinguishment. We do want to distinguish between the two. Um, so if you're talking about I have met a couple of people. I'm thinking of one lady in particular who was a teacher, a school grade teacher, and she started a business that was for teachers. Oh, gosh, I'm trying to remember what it was, but it's different. She was already a teacher in her career, but she took what she learned in her career, kind of like what Rose is doing as a nurse, taking what she learned in that career and turned it into a business. But I don't remember what the product was. I think she was helping other teachers do something. So I don't remember, but yeah, that's along the lines of a business. This lady started a business with the idea of making it sustainable and scalable. She was growing. She already opened it. It was growing and doing well. And there's also a lady I know. She was a business she was a resume writer. Like she writes resumes for people. That's like a skill and talent she has. And that's what she did for a living. And then she started a business with it, right? She took her career and turned it into a business, left her job, basically left her career and turned it into a business where she has a partner. And basically they go into companies and help prepare applicants to be groomed for how to correctly work in their company, kind of thing. So she's a consultant. It's a consulting business essentially. And so, yeah, you can take your skill that you learned in your profession and turn it into a business. But the idea is to distinguish between a career and a business. In this case, is it sustainable? Is it scalable? Because you can't sustain or scale yourself, right? You have 24 hours in a day and you're going to die someday. So, you can't do that. So a business is different, where you hire people to do things that you would do. You replace yourself, so to speak. But I think Laura may not be with us at the moment, but I hope that helped the distinguishment between, or to help with your idea behind a teaching business, which we could definitely go into at another time. Okay, I think that I've ran beyond our time, but that's cool. No big deal. I'm glad you guys were with us. I'm glad we did this. It was fun. I hope you got something out of it. And next month we are going to be talking about what business should you choose, right? That's
Okay.
sometimes a hard one. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to give you the little secret up front. Choose any business.
Yeah, you told me that, yes.
Choose any business. It really doesn't matter. But I'll get into more detail about that on the next meeting. So I just want to leave you with a little cliffhanger. All right. I'm going to figure out how to turn this off.
Thank you so
Okay.
much,
Well,
Chris.
yes, thank you for coming. I'll see you guys
See you.
next month.
Okay,
All right.
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.